The mythological background to the epic poem, the Odyssey by Homer. It all starts with a wedding and an apple. The episode in ancient Greek mythology, which really kicks off the great Trojan War and then the epic poem of the Iliad and the Odyssey, was an episode called the Judgment of Paris. When Peleus married the sea nymph Thetis, all of the gods and goddesses came to their wedding feast. However, one was not invited. That was Eris, the goddess of discord. She was snubbed. In her anger, she decided instead to send an apple of discord. It was a golden apple on which was written "for the fairest," or for the most beautiful. Goddesses being goddesses, Athena, Hera and Aphrodite all laid claim to the apple, saying that they were the fairest out of all the goddesses. They argued and argued over who was the most beautiful, and eventually they went to Zeus, king of the gods. Zeus, however, didn't want any part of this, and he wimped out and decided that the Trojan prince Paris should decide. Paris was out hunting on Mount Ida, and the goddesses found him, and they attempted to bribe Paris with various promises. However, Aphrodite's promise of the most beautiful woman in the world, Helen, was the one that swayed Paris, and he declared that Aphrodite was the fairest of them all. Here is a Renaissance painting which depicts the scene on Mount Ida. Here we see Athene. We can tell it's Athene because of the helmet that she's wearing, her spear, her aegis, protective shield, and the little symbol of the owl here. Here we have Hera. We can't really tell that it's Hera at all, apart from the fact that her symbol, the peacock, is down here in the corner. And on the right we have Aphrodite, goddess of love, who is depicted with little cherubs above her, and one here depicting Eros or Cupid, who was her son. Here we have Paris, the Trojan prince, who's holding the apple, and here we have Hermes, who's the messenger god, and would have carried the message and the apple to Paris. And the consequence of this was that Aphrodite made Helen the most beautiful of all women, but also the wife of a man called Menelaus, fall in love with Paris, and he took her to Troy. On finding out about this, Agamemnon, Menelaus's brother, who happened to be the king of Mycenae, led an expedition of Greek troops to Troy and besieged the city for 10 years because of Paris's insult to the Greeks. To add salt to the wound, Paris was at the time a guest in Menelaus's house. Therefore, he'd broken the Greek law of hospitality. Agamemnon commanded 1,000 ships of Greek troops. These were led by various kings and leaders from around the Greek world, including people such as Achilles, leader of the Myrmidons, and Odysseus, king of Ithaca, amongst many others. Here's Odysseus. He had to get from Ithaca to Troy, which, as you can see, is quite a long way away. The battle raged on for 10 years. Achilles killed the Trojan prince Hector. Hector was Paris's brother. And dragged him around the walls of Troy, famously 3 times. Here we can see a Roman mosaic which depicts Achilles on his chariot with a naked Hector being dragged around. But Achilles, of course, was famously killed by being shot in his heel. Here we can see Paris on the left with the bow, being guided by Apollo, the god of archery, and Apollo supported the Trojans in the Trojan War. And he's pointing to the only weak point on Achilles' body, his heel, and Achilles then died. After Achilles' death, the Greeks and Trojans continued to fight. It was eventually Odysseus, who was known for being very wily and cunning and clever, that came up with the idea of the Trojan horse. The Greeks pretended that they had left Troy, but in the meantime in their ships they went and hid in another harbour. They left as a peace offering a great wooden horse that they built, and the Trojans rejoiced. However, inside were the Greek men hidden inside the horse. The Trojans brought the horse into the walls of Troy, closed the gates behind them, celebrated the great victory, and danced and drank and ate into the night. Meanwhile, of course, after they'd all gone to sleep, the Greeks very cleverly and quietly snuck out of the horse in their armour and managed to attack the Trojans. And Troy was sacked and was burnt, and the Greeks were victorious. So the Greeks are victorious. Odysseus' great plan has worked, and he's praised as a great hero. However, 10 years after the end of the Battle of Troy, Odysseus is still not home. And this is where Homer picks up the story. If you're thirsty for more information, here's a reminder of all the various things that you could be listening or watching or reading if you find this topic interesting.